Hello everyone, this is Chris. Welcome back. Just wanted to show you some progress I've made on the track work. Track is only temporarily laid there right now, but I've worked on this curve to try to get my center lines done. But the main thing I'm working on right now is the 5-track loop down here. So I've got my switches lined up, and there's going to be 5 tracks here. And I decided I wanted to try a offset curve where you transition into the curve you're going to make. And I was reading about it in some of the magazines. So I decided on my curves. I have 099, 090 and a half, 082, 073 and a half, and 064 and a half. The tighter curves have a 4.5 inch center, and then the outer ones have a 4.25 inch. And I'm hoping it's going to be big enough for the larger engines. And what I did was, the curves here, they don't match up with the tracks down there. So they're actually 1.5 inches offset. So my straight lines here are 1.5 inches wider than the curves. So one of the things they recommend was using a thin piece of wood to transition a curve to make the two lines meet up. So what I did was, if this is where the center of the curve would start to go straight, I measured over about 17 inches, and I put a nail here to hold my board, and a couple of nails to hold this part straight. And then over here I've got some more nails, measured over about the same 17 inches, and put a mark here, and then made the transition from the straight to the curve a gradual bend till it meets up with the curve right there, the actual, in this case, 082. Now, it's a little tricky trying to get it all planned out, but I think it'll look nice when the curve straight comes down and gradually starts curving into the main curve. Well, I'll show you how I came up with my center lines for the 5 tracks. I wanted it as close to the edge on the right as I could make it, because if I had it closer to the left, that would make my curves in the tighter curves a little bit sharper. So I had this one is actually 3 inches off from the edge of the table, the first track, and I made a diagram. I wrote everything down. My table's 24 inches wide, and then you can see the 3 at the bottom right is the center line for the first track. Then go up 7.25, 11.5, 15.75, and then 20.25. So I drew all those lines to make my straights. Drew lines all on the table for all my straight tracks, and then I just moved the ruler so you can actually see what the line looks like that I drew using the piece of wood to connect the straight to the perfect curve. That's, in this case, this outer one here is 090 and a half. So it's a 090 and a half curve here, and then it slowly transitions to the straight. And that's what I did. I'm doing it to this section here, and I already did draw that line, but now I gotta do the same thing to the last 2 tracks. Put the nails in and hold the board straight, and then it kind of bends to the best curve to fit in between the 2. So it looks like, that if I went straight there, I'd be too close to the edge on the left, the inner curve, but it's going to transition out to meet up with that switch. One of the things I did initially to make my curves was to use a long stick, almost like a yardstick, but it's just a piece of wood I had left over. And I had to actually build a support in the center here temporarily to put the center of the curve to hold the end of the stick. So then I measured, for the curves I wanted and drilled a hole, and could put a pencil through the hole and then draw the lines for each, moving the stick back and forth, draw the lines, and had to keep sharpening the pencil, and did that all the way around to get my curves drawn out. Well, after I finished drawing the transitions in the curves on this side, I have to do it on the other side, and eventually I'll use some cork to do the outer loop here. I'm only going to put some cork road bed under the outer loop, and the rest of it, the 4 tracks, will be just right on the homosote, just to give some elevation change on the tracks and indicate that maybe the outer loop is the main line and the other tracks are like sidings and storage tracks. So these are number 4 Ross switches, and they still take up a lot of room. They're approximately, like, I guess about 15 inches long. So when you put them end to end, you take up a lot of space, a little more than I really wanted to, but I wanted the trains to not have to curve and everything, so I just made a straight ladder in, and the trains will just look nicer going through the one curve instead of multiple curves if I made the switches not end to end like a compound ladder. I didn't want to do that here. Same with the other side. When the tracks come back around, I'm going to have just one switch after another. One switch is missing. I was put it over here. The last switch, I was thinking about having a little siding come up here where this yardstick ruler is, to be like a little engine storage track or a caboose track or something. But the main purpose of the tracks down here is just to store the trains as they come in, and then they'd be able to go right back out again at a later time. So I have some curve switches to try to save space, and there's a crossover. So if you come down, probably mainly come down on the outer loop, and you could cross over and go around that way, or stay on the outer track and go around the other way. And then the track up here where there's an engine, that could also be a storage track if you temporarily want to store a train out here. It could be up here all along the grade there, so I could store another train there. Also on this curve, I'm doing the same thing. I have a little bit of an offset for the loop here, so that goes out a little bit wider. Where that track is, that's the actual center line, so it's going to start curving gradually before it gets to the main curve here. And this is a piece of cork I'm going to use. Still on the outside track here, I'm going to use cork as the main line for all the way up around the curve there. And then the siding that comes down will be just right on the homosote, and it'll be about a 1/4 inch lower to give it the look that it's not maintained as much as the main line. And another one thing I purchased recently from a friend of mine was this Y6B. So he had it in a glass display case. I haven't taken it out yet to try it, but I think this is from maybe 1997. It's a MTH. So he does have auxiliary tender, water tender, and I might purchase that at a later date. So I just thought I'd give you a look at that. That's probably going to wrap it up today. Gonna do some work on drawing all the lines and getting ready to put the track down. So you all take care, and I'll see you again next time.